Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Hello, changemakers. Welcome back to the DEX Show for a very, very special episode indeed. My name is Tom McGraw. I'm joined as ever by my main man, Tim Flower. Tim, how's it going today? How you feeling about this one?
As ever, Tom, feeling really good. We have the boss and the boss's boss. How often do we get that opportunity to get them both in the same room?
I'm absolutely terrified, Tim. Podding with the boss and the boss's boss gets me unnerved.
We've been around the block, Tom. You're used to pressure. Pressure makes diamonds, so we're going to kill it.
Pressure makes diamonds. That's an excellent thought. Okay, let's welcome them. Let's start with the boss's boss, Nexthink founder and CEO Pedro Bados, and a returning guest to the DEX Show. Pedro, lovely to see you again. Lovely to have you back on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Tim and Tom, to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. And first time welcome now to Nexthink's Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer, Yassine Zaied. Yassine's a first-time guest on the show, but has been a huge supporter of the DEX Show in back rooms and boardrooms for a couple of years now. So we're particularly delighted to welcome him here today. Welcome, Yassine. Great to have you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tim. Very glad to be here.
Okay, Pedro, we'll start with you. When we first had you on the show a couple of years ago, we basically did a history of Nexthink together. So we've already covered in conversation the amazing origin story of how you at engineering college in Switzerland came up with the innovation that became the company Nexthink. And of course, this is very entangled with the history of DEX because that same technology would eventually lead to the invention of this space. But I wonder if we should use as a jump-off point today where you feel that transition first occurred to you, where it was first suggested to you, where the technology that you initially conceived of as something that would be a very useful security tool suddenly pointed in a new direction.
So I remember we were in Switzerland, so we went out and talked to all these great Swiss companies, and I remember the conversation with it's called the CISO, the Chief Security and Information Officer at Rolex, the very famous watchmaker, and I think he was somehow a visionary from that standpoint, because he said, look, having the end user perspective, understanding how employees are using my digital services has great value for security, but that happens maybe once every 2 weeks, once every month, that I have really a security incident. But I have everyday people that they are adopting new applications. I have everyday people that they are working and there are things that they are not working for them. I know a fraction of them, they're actually opening tickets and really escalating these problems. So the daily value that a technology like this is bringing to my operations and is bringing to my business is much more stronger than, just, let's say, another security monitoring solution. And that was kind of a big realization for us because, as we said, number one customer for many IT departments is actually the internal employee. And for many businesses and for many CEOs, right, the internal employees, because that's the ones actually they run the business, and not having the ability to really understand how they are experiencing the digital services, how they are interacting with the company. Now, most of the interactions are digital. Understanding the problems they're having, that's really a big, I would say, challenge, and a very interesting challenge back in the days to tackle.
It's great to have Yassine here as well. Yassine, some of the best conversations that you and I have are when we're in the heat of trying to describe what we do, right? Why it's so important to enterprises, why everybody on the planet needs to have this. Over the early years, though, Nexthink was looking for ways to explain exactly what we do in a clear, concise, and a compelling way, and we eventually landed on DEX, the management of digital employee experience. And those three words seem to be resonating in the market. Tell us about the transition into what eventually became DEX. What triggered it, And how do you, or how did you perceive that transition into basically a novel space?
Thank you, Tim. And listening to Pedro, there are so many memories that are coming back. And to answer your question, it comes always from discussions with customers, by the way. It's always interesting. And what Pedro described about that first customer, and I remember exactly the discussion and the way Pedro described it. And one thing that remains in our head very quickly when he said, if you remember Pedro, he said, in addition to the operation and the daily operation, he said, this is just amazing, because as if I was in a dark room and I switched on the light and suddenly I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing what is happening, what incident and whatever. And we realized that day that although, IT teams and large companies invested millions, invested so many resources in tools and processes and system to try to never to be in the dark, never be surprised by a major incident, they still got surprised every single day by an escalation, by a major incident that employees cannot work, and they go into a nightmare to resolve it. And we realized that the missing link, we have it, we did it, which is seeing everything from the user perspective and seeing everything in the context of the activity of the employee himself. So we are not just looking to pieces by pieces, whether they are up or down. We are seeing the whole flow for every single employee and for all of them all the time. And that's how we started realizing how much we can help IT teams to actually get out from that nightmare, be proactive, see what is happening before the alert from the user, and resolve it before it becomes an issue. And a couple of years later, we have one customer who actually forwarded to me an email thread that he was, talking with one of the executive of the company. And basically he sent him an email telling him, sir, yesterday we noted that you had this problem. We noted that your device, crashed when you were using this application. And we are sorry for that. We corrected it. We resolved it, and it will not happen again. And by the way, we ordered a new device for you because we are discovering as well that given what you use, you need a much more powerful device. And the executive answered him back and asked him, but I didn't open a ticket. I didn't call the IT support. And the IT person replied, we don't need to wait for that anymore. We are capable to see the problems, we are capable to resolve them, and we are capable to actually discover what configuration needs to be changed to make it work better. And the executive answered back, copying the CIO and saying, this is what I call a true digital experience. And that hit us in some way, which is we realized that we do even much more than helping IT people to solve the problems. That will remain our main objective, of course, is really to equip all the IT teams in the world with the capability to see what is going on, to resolve it immediately, and not to have escalations and problems. But by doing that, or through doing that, we are delivering a much bigger value to the whole enterprise, which is making all the employees having a fantastic digital employee experience and, get their job done very quickly, feel proud of having a full day full of activities because nothing was broken, because they didn't lose time. And that's where we started to think that, hey, we are doing a much bigger thing and we are delivering a much bigger value than we even thought in the beginning.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Pedro, when you were making the transition of the kind that Yassine was just describing there, what was the sense that you had of the ratio between, on the one hand, risk and on the other hand, potential reward for really trying to explore something that was so new?
I mean, the realization didn't happen overnight. So it took us really a few years. And I think at some point we were trying to understand what is the market that has the biggest potential for us. And the worst decision was to pick two markets. So, or three, right? Because we understood that different, buyers, different products, we were never going to be the best in both. So the question for us was really about, should we focus really on security or should we really focus on operations? Obviously, there was not digital employee experience as a market. For us, was more operations, right? What the way we describe it. And I think for us, the security market, because it was already, quite a few big players, and probably needed really some different type of organization, a lot of research up front and things like that, was something that is going to be very hard to be the best in the world. And there is this new emerging market in which, as we said, people don't want to really be reactive. At the same time, there's going to be more and more of these SaaS applications. There's going to be a little bit of more flexibility at the workplace. So it's going to become harder and harder to run the operations for employees in companies. So there is a new opportunity. It's definitely small. And we have really very, very heated debates at board level to really understand, because security was such a great market as well, right? To really focus on operations or end user experience. I think that was another name back in the days, instead of really security. But, we actually focused on, I think already in the first 1 or 2 years, everything became so much easier because the value proposition was not 2 or 3. The people they knew, in which category we're playing. The customers, they were able to put us somehow in a box, so they were able to talk to their management about the problems they are solving. So I think that's more or less how the decision came out.
So Yassine, let's go beyond the name, right? As we see in the market, and it's a great thing, but anybody can use the term DEX. It's not proprietary, and we see software vendors using it, and it's great there's a lot of pride that we created that, and now there's a market around it. But the others don't have the technology that we do to actually execute on it the right way. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what were the big technology milestones in the full development at Nexthink that really took the concept into reality?
Very, very interesting question, Tim, by the way. I will say there were 2 milestones. The beginning, as Pedro said before, the core of what we do today is powered by that first invention made by Pedro and Patrick and the others, which is being capable to see everything in real time, all the time, from the end user perspective. It is not easy to realize. It is not easy even to solve technologically, because it's an amazing technology challenges. And I always give this parallel, saying, many other, as you said, some technologies, and some vendors, they do bits and bytes of it. As if you imagine you have a truck, Tim, and you have a software that is monitoring the engine. You have a software that is monitoring the load. You have a software that is monitoring the state of mind of the driver. But actually, you don't know whether he's in a traffic jam, whether he's taking the right route, whatever. Nexthink is having all of those information, but knowing exactly the route and all the journey of that truck. So everything is put in context. And that core was made in day one. And that's really, the biggest thing. I would say that the second milestone, and I remember I was with Pedro in India, basically, and he brought the idea and he said, we should do Engage. And Engage is, naming the innovation with it, which is the capability to go sense in the right time to the right people, from the employees, their satisfaction, their thoughts, and engage with them to get insights from them at the right time, on the right scope, and pull those information and put them together with all the technical information we are having to make sense of it. And that, I believe, is another major milestone that, made us as well, shape the DEX category and how DEX technology should work. And you know what, Tim? The rest were the automation, our automation capabilities, our remediation capabilities, our engage capabilities. Why they are so powerful? Because they are powered by the core, which is knowing what is happening in the context. If you don't know, give you an example. You did a transformation and you want to see whether it is working to employees or not. So you want to engage with employees and check that the ones who used it for 30 minutes are happy or not. But you need to know who are the ones who use it for 30 minutes. What happened to them? Did they succeed? Did they connect? And in my opinion, if you cannot have that core, that information, you cannot do the rest very, very well. I'm still convinced that the core technology of Nexthink remains the most powerful, and maybe I will say, frankly speaking, I'm not afraid to say, is maybe the most full, the most comprehensive, real text technology that is today in the market.
So I'll give you a little anecdote to back that up. We were at a prospect at Severn World Trade Center yesterday, and one of the things that we showed them was the ability to install a patch in their lab and then immediately go and see if that patch is causing problems on any of the other 16 million endpoints that are also Nexthink customers, and to be predictive and knowledgeable about what they're going to deploy before they deploy it. Are other people deploying this safely? So continuous innovation continues to amaze our customers. Yeah. It's such a beautiful thing to see. Pedro, we'll go back to a little bit of the time machine, looking backwards. Nexthink has been, in the early years, was the only fish in the sea, right? There weren't many people, if anybody, really doing what we did the way we do it. When did you see that this market was developing bigger than Nexthink? Was it the evolution of some other competitive products that were trying to keep up, or was it the analysts? Was it industry leaders like Dell and Microsoft and HP starting to talk about it? What was your realization when you said this is bigger than Nexthink?
Yeah, so I would say it's been probably recently. So it's probably 4 or 5 years ago. And obviously the last 12 months is kind of even accelerated. And I think it's been a combination of probably the COVID accelerating the need for a digital employee experience, as employees are working from different places using many of these SaaS applications, and they are not under control of IT. So obviously it has accelerated. So I would say probably the last 4 or 5 years. I have to say, for us, it's great. And I think it's even better for employees working in companies, because the more people that they are tackling this problem, the better digital experience that employees will be able to provide to their employees, right? Which has been already a pain for many years. And there is no one single employee in a large company which is not complaining about the experience with IT. And it's great that all these companies together we can really improve their lives. I would say, as Yassine mentioned before, we had the advantage to really invest in innovation early on. So we have really some of these technologies, like the ability to measure sentiment, computing XLAs, the ability to automate, the ability to benchmark, that they are pretty advanced. And actually there's a lot of investment behind with many years, which is, I would say, it's an important asset for us. But definitely there are more and more vendors that they are providing some sort of digital experience. And I think I think it's very good. Competition is healthy. That's the way we approach it at Nexthink.
Okay, so Pedro, as the languages and concepts around DEX become more ubiquitous and certainly common, we start to see a lot of organizations, peers, competitors adopt them principally for marketing purposes, right? I'm interested if you think that this brings with it a danger around distracting companies who are seeking real and impactful outcomes from navigating this space and ultimately realizing those aims.
I mean, sure. I mean, obviously there is more and more buzzwords. I think the terms, they have been abused. What is an experience? What does it mean, digital experience? That's why I think it's important to be concrete on the type of problems that we are solving and the type of use cases. Because otherwise, if we are just focused on the slogan or the tagline, I have to say, technology people and IT departments, they tend to read through between lines. So they are very knowledgeable on technologies. They are very pragmatic. So this is not a market in which people, they just buy products based on, on terminology. They really want to go into the details. So they really see the benefits, before purchasing this type of solutions. But definitely, we have to make sure that we are concrete and we just not stay on digital employee experience, but defining what that means, defining why it's important for employees, why it's important for business, what is important for IT, more specifically, right? And that's what we are doing. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've really appreciated about Nexthink and the way the company operates is that it's not just employee experience that you're interested in or that we're interested in. We're also interested in the customer's input, the customer feedback. And one of my earliest memories, even before becoming an employee when I was a customer, is the conversations that you and I would have, and I think we even had it during my interview when I was coming over to join the company, was what were the prospects of employee experience or looking for the killer app in mobile, right? iPhone is locked down. It's difficult. Android is not locked down at all, and there's too many versions. You can't do much with it. But I'm curious what you think about the mobile space without becoming an MDM provider. We're doing a few things now with Engage on mobile to actually engage with employees. But what are your thoughts about mobility and as end-user compute transitions?
Yeah, I think what we are observing is mobile devices, they come on top of your traditional laptop, I would say, in most cases, right? I don't think there are many desktops out there anymore. It's not really one or another. It's actually both in general. I think probably mobility is much more about consuming information, while right. People in laptops, they are more creating information, creating data, creating value. Obviously, we are much more focused from the technology standpoint to solve, I would say, the laptop across all the different, Windows, Mac, virtual desktops. It's just because it's such a large business, which is much more complex for the type of customers that we have. While in the mobility world, it's just simpler. So as you said, we definitely provide value on, how the applications are performing, what is the level of experience on mobile devices. But we really see a little bit more business value and opportunities on traditional, I would say, laptops, different operating systems. It's just because people, when they work, they spend more time in these interfaces and in these computers.
So Yassine, what have you run across in your years of talking about DEX that are misperceptions? What is, and maybe it's kind of the question is, what is? We've covered a lot of what DEX is. Give a couple of bullets on what DEX is not.
Good question. We can look at it, from different level. If we look at it from outcomes or from how the technology, how a DEX technology work, I would say for me the most important thing is that the DEX technology is a technology that can correlate the information that it is observing. And I'm using the term observe in a conscious manner, because it's not about a technology that is monitoring a couple of metrics here and there, even if they are millions of metrics, without linking the context, and alerting on a couple of metrics whether they go beyond a threshold or not. For me, it's not a DEX technology. It's actually only simplifying what we call log reading. IT teams use it to have logs coming from many places, and we can actually put them together in one console and ask the same people, the IT teams, go make sense of the logs. That's exactly what we resolve with that Nexthink, which is, you know what? You don't need to look to the logs, to millions of logs, to 10 of millions of logs. Nexthink is capable, by observing everything, understanding a baseline, comparing what is not actually working, immediately correlating what is working and what is not, and understanding the root cause and understanding the problem, and give you how to resolve it immediately. That's for me DEX technology. There are another technology that is requiring IT teams to actually take some logs and go deep in it to understand what is going on. I would say it helps, but it doesn't kill the problem. I would say that at Nexthink we kill the problem. That's for me DEX technology.
So this maybe requires both your marketing hat and your strategy hat. We talked a lot about how our technology, our platform, is a necessity for everyone on the planet, every business on the planet. But there are so many businesses that have yet to, I'll say, see the light. In my experience, I get, on average, 26 emails and countless voicemails a day from other software vendors in their own spaces that think their technology is the best thing on the planet as well. How do we differentiate ourselves from all of the noise of other software vendors that are all trying to sell in their space as well? Do you think that there's a risk that we get lost in the overall software market as a whole, or do we not need to worry about that so much?
By the way, your example of being hit with many emails from software vendor resonates to me very well as chief marketing, because I totally agree with you, and I have the same debate inside the team every single day. It doesn't matter to send so many emails to people. What we discovered, and for me it was a discovery because I'm not an engineer, and had many discussions with Pedro, and he opened my eyes, and actually even our engineers at Nexthink opened my eyes to this, which is IT teams, as Pedro said, they are very well informed and they research themselves, and they see, they know what is going on, they watch videos, they ask for demos. And I think they take a pride, what I discovered, in that they know and they decided what works for them. So it's not about hitting people with emails to attract their attention. It's to make sure that we explain very well what do we solve and how we solve it. What are the use cases? What are the problems? And make sure, the community can access easily, our material and see the product in action. And that's, I insist on. It's not about marketing slogan. It's about seeing the product in action, seeing how the product works, seeing what the technology is solving, and testing it and using it and seeing. And I think if we do that well, they will come to us and we will have a discussion with them. And answering your first question is, of course, every company has its own maturity cycle and its urgent problem and less urgent problem. So yes, every company in the world needs a technology like ours, needs Nexthink, needs a DEX technology. But the ones who see it, the one who actually are having that urgent problem, they will search and they will compare and they will look. And if we explain, as I said, the problems we solve, how we solve them, make sure they see how our technology it works. No need to send 50 emails or 70 emails and being lost within all the software marketing.
Okay, Pedro, penultimate question. There's a lot of very exciting innovation coming out from Nexthink at the moment, and over the rest of this year, we covering a lot of it here on the show. Talk us through, though, if you would, the overall strategy for Nexthink at present, as you see it, and I guess how you see that strategy as fundamentally pushing the wider DEX space really forward.
Yes. So when we look into this space, and we actually try to understand, if we take the overall problem of digital employee experience, where this experience will happen in the future, right? So one area that we think will be very important, for instance, is applications. More and more of the applications, actually the work is happening within the application. So how can we make sure from the employee perspective, from the company perspective, that we offer great experience into the applications? Another area, for instance, is the collaboration, Teams, Zoom, people, they use it. Another area which we think it's going to pick up also is probably virtual desktops, for instance, right? There are different providers. So we try to focus our strategy and roadmap, being very focused on digital employee experience, but trying to understand how this translates into, the next 3-5 years, right? That's also very important for us. We also try to look into, obviously, innovation that is reducing cost, is reducing, I would say, friction with our customers. AI, for instance, is a great example. We're not using AI just for the sake of AI, but we think it could be a great way of using our product through generative AI. We see that customers, they want digital employee experience, but they need to automate as a way to reduce cost and having a quick impact in ROI. So all these things, they get into the, I would say, the strategic team and the management team, and then we try to put them in priorities. So there is nothing really revolutionary. I think it's just doing better what we do today.
Pedro, we've now covered a lot of history, both in our previous conversation and this one, in basically that entire journey from that first spark of inspiration that became Nexthink to the present day, where you're not only the CEO and founder of a company, but a company which defined and even invented the space that it leads. Just wondering how you'd characterize that journey in a nutshell.
The way I characterize it is like a book. Probably would be some sort of Harry Potter book with many different chapters, quite different one from another. I think some people, they ask me, but you don't get bored really, running the same company for, 15 years. And I said, look, it's like 10 different companies in the last, so different milestones, different challenges. As you know, I decided to move to the US with my family, which is opening up a new chapter, as a matter of fact, also as a personal level for me. So even within Nexthink, I think it's a book with many, many different chapters.
Fantastic. Guys, it's been great to have you both on the show. Really, really enjoyed the conversation. For any listeners that want to hear more about the origin story of Nexthink specifically, I definitely encourage you to check out the episode I mentioned at the top that we recorded with Pedro and some of the other Nexthink founders. We recorded it a couple of years ago. It's called Three Magic Kings. Great conversation. You'll find links to it in the show notes. And I should also plug, as I often do, the DEX Show, DEX Hub Mothership. If you want to keep up to date with this space and its continued evolution, be sure to check in on that excellent site on a regular basis. You'll also find a full free range of DEX certifications, which we know hundreds of people are getting a lot of value out of. Just really remains for me to say, Yassine, Pedro, thanks so much for coming on the show. Been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Tom. My pleasure.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how Nexthink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nexthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.